they may fall, but after decades of hoping, it's immediate at all. They didn't see us coming, but we can make it alone. Let's just believe until we have to go home.
Never has that song been more appropriate, by the way, than this morning. Welcome into the Euro Breakfast again, folks. Unfortunately, it's on a bit of a downer this morning, but we'll do our best to get through it. Delighted to be joined this morning, firstly, on my right, as you're looking at this, by a YouTuber you'll probably know all about the away days. Gogsy, how you doing, my man?
Hello, my voice is absolutely hoarse, so I'll do my best today. It could have been a lot better, but it is what it is. Sayonara Euros. It's a shite competition anyway.
Gogsy has just learned what it means to be Scottish at a major tournament, so we'll we'll take it easy on him. And below me, Andy from the Hand and Roar podcast, also a commentator who, by the way, mate, really enjoyed your England commentary. Listen back to it.
Thank you.
So that was some gig for you as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, big opportunity that. It came out of nowhere for me. So hopefully, just when I hear people say that it sounded good or it went well, that's the main thing. We didn't get the big moment, but at least we got a point, and it was at the time anyway, it set us up nicely for the game yesterday. Basically,
the secret is, if you want a positive result, get this man on the commentary for the way this tournament went. But yeah, I guess we just need to start with Hampden, don't we? Because we're going to get into it anyway. 3-1 Croatia, and now that I've had a chance to kind of sit back a bit and I've watched back a wee bit of the game, as hard as it was to do, we need to give credit for them just being really, really good. Modric ran the show. I still think that we let them play though, which is a frustrating thing. Like, by sitting off them, we just let them play the balls through us, and ultimately that's what killed us, I think. Who wants to jump in first?
I'll jump in. I completely agree. I thought we started off a better team. First 15 minutes before they got the goal, which came out of nowhere because we were sitting off them, as you said. And that's been a regular thing. Out of the 5 goals we conceded in the tournament, they all came from us sitting off our opposition and allowing pressure. And Croatia got a goal out of absolutely nothing. I thought we deserved to be going into half time at level because of how we had played in the first half. But that first half team just didn't show for the second, and that's where it hurt us. Steve Clark didn't change the midfield before Croatia scored. I thought we really should have changed up, because Armstrong had given the ball away in the 5 or 6 times in the first half. I thought he should have been subbed instead of Grant Hanley, and I'd rather have Grant Hanley cropped in the middle of the park instead of a not so good Stuart Armstrong. But I thought on the night the better team won. I think Croatia, with their experience in major tournaments, showed, and I think lack of experience for Scotland is unfortunately the main reason why we are no longer in the Euros.
Yeah, I think it's all pretty fair enough what you've mentioned there. Armstrong was my big letdown, in all honesty, because he constantly gave the ball away in a game that we didn't have possession. We just couldn't afford him doing that. I don't think he really suits the style that Clark's got in. I'd much rather have seen a Turnbull or a Fleck, or like just a centre mid who's a bit more careful in possession. And there,
guys, sorry, I thought you were finished there, Mozza.
Oh, sorry, jump in, Andy.
I'm very confused as to why John Fleck was in the squad if last night wasn't it was the situation where we needed him, because it's strange to think that given the riches we have in centre mid that we were at the bottom of the pecking order, which is where John Fleck is, right? Okay, so McTominay was originally a first choice centre mid. He's been pushed back, and you've got McGregor, you've got Gilmore, and when they're fit, Ryan Jack and McLean are ahead of Fleck as well. But we needed Fleck last night, and he still wasn't picked. So I'm confused. He seemed the most natural replacement to come in and play alongside Callum McGregor and still give us that 2 in 1 shape and allow John McGinn to go a wee bit rather than have more of a straight 3. So I'm confused as to why Fleck was there, to be honest, if he wasn't going to be used when the situation was crying out for him.
Yeah, I think Fleck, I would have been delighted to have seen in the first 11 because it would have freed up McGregor to get forward more, basically playing that Armstrong role. And you saw what happened when he was in the edge of the box. He scored their only goal of the tournament. But I think the thing that killed us mainly was the way we defended as well. And I might be slightly guilty for this because I put a tweet out after that Holland friendly saying, if McKenna sees a pitch, we're done. There it happens, Hanley goes down. I still can't believe it was McKenna that came on for him. When you've got Cooper, you've got Gallagher, you've got just...
Maybe they were trying to put someone on who is the nearest thing to Hanley that we've got rather than the best defender, because Hanley, I know he's a big guy and he looks quite square, right? But he's in brilliant shape, Hanley. Yeah. He's really, really in good trim. And I think this is the tournament that people have realised that Hanley's fast as well. He's not a slouch. He's not a big lumbering centre half. I remember speaking to a guy I know in the industry. You might have spoke to me yourself, Stuart Hodge at all. He does Hodgie the Hack podcast, and he used to do work at Norwich. And one of the build-up podcasts that I was doing for the Hampden Roar, I was on his as well, and he was saying that when I was working at Norwich 2 seasons ago, Hanley was finishing second in the speed trials. I can't remember who was their fastest, but the centre half was the second quickest at the club, and it's crazy because people were slating the selection of Hanley back in March, like, oh my God, we've picked Grant Hanley again, what's going on? But he's not the same player that he was 5 or 6 years ago, and I think that going forward, if Clark persists with the 3 at the back, I think Tierney, McTominay, Hanley seems to be the best way to go about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only issue I've got with McTominay is he's got a mistake in him, and again, that showed last night. I felt like that a more natural centre-back probably helps more than their first goal. O'Donnell did kind of get caught out of the back post, but you'd expect the centre-half to be putting the pressure on in the air there as well. Other than that, I think he was pretty solid for what we wanted him to be. I actually prefer McTominay there because in midfield, again, he's quite wasteful with the ball at times, and we just can't afford that, the size of country we are and the way we play. So, but I'll come back to yourself then, Gogsy. So, we can I talk about Scotland and our lineup and the way we played all we want, but Modric is class, wasn't he? Just, he's, for folk that were writing him off, especially that finish for the second, just unbelievable play.
No, I mean, I was there in the flesh, and to be able to say that I got to see Luka Modric back at his best is not something you want to say as a Scotland fan, but it's also it was also an absolute privilege, and I mean that finish was one of the best I've seen in person. But yeah, I just want to say I was actually glad to see Scotland score a goal in a major tournament.
I mean, that obviously was a big thing, because if we'd gone out having no scored, we said this before we get started, would have been a huge letdown, I think. But thank God we managed to get that's going to be the positive to come out of it, right? The fact that people remember McGregor's goal in the way, I know in the pub I was in, everyone was jumping about as if there was no COVID, hugging each other, celebrating. But just to be able to get a goal at a major tournament against such a nice thing.
I was terrified, fellas, that we would make it and then not have a moment to remember at the tournament.
Yeah.
We came so close to getting one against England, and last night when they went 1-0 up, I thought, right, okay, well, this could be a total disaster here. If they go and get a second before we've equalised, then it's not the same. Like scoring a goal to half the deficit, it's not the same as wildly celebrating an equaliser or a goal that puts you in front. And I was really, really worried for a stage. And I think that the moment we'll look back on last night, I know we had a number of chances. Shea Adams had one, but I feel that John McGinn at the back post has got to score. He has got to score. I think of all the ways that he could have tried to put that one in, with his head, with his left foot, with his right foot, with his knee, with his chest, I don't know why he's gone with the outside of his left shin to try and stick that one in.
he's already half preparing himself for the blow that's coming. I think that's what's put him off. And you could kind of tell that he was hunched up like that when he made contact with the keeper, that instead of just putting the ball in the net, he's kind of protected himself before that. And obviously, you're going to get hurt if you put the ball away the way you should there. But it was. I don't understand why he's not going with his head. I don't understand why Che didn't go with his head with his chance. I'll go to bat for Dykes because I've seen already people having a go at him, and I saw a lot of it last night. I think Dykes did brilliantly last night for his role and what we asked him to do. Like, there's a stat going about that he's won more headers than anyone else in this tournament, because as direct as we've been, and I'd rather we weren't as direct, he's done his job. He's won flick-ons, he's won the physical battles, but he can only do so much on his own up there. We need to have somebody right beside him, and a lot of the time I feel like Shea Adams hasn't been right there with him, which hasn't helped. It's been better than what the first game was, but we need to give more support if we're going to use Dykes that way. What do you think,
I am. Oh, sorry, Gogsy, you want to jump in?
No, I'd like to echo what Mozza said. I think what a lot of centre halves don't like is that physical battle, and I think Lyndon Dykes brings that, and that's why Steve Clark consistently plays him, because it's something different. And I mean, Shea Adams, I thought was really good. I thought he was the only forward we had that was actually pressing the Croatian defence relentlessly, but he was also the only forward that was coming back and helping the defence. So that's why Shea Adams' heat map last night must have been all over the place, because like, he covered every blade of grass, and that's great for a forward. But it's also not so great when he's not there to support his strike partner.
With Dykes, I think when he played in Serbia up front and he'd just come into the team, he was brilliant. And the performance that he turned in Serbia, in my opinion, remains, and it is the best I've seen from a centre forward in a Scotland shirt. I thought he was unplayable. My concern is that for him, for it to be largely worth it, having him in the team, he needs to perform at that level all the time, which is hard to do, because Dykes is decent, but he's not, a world-class centre forward. He's just a good centre forward. And I think that you're right, Mozza, that we do need someone up there with him. In my opinion, Shea Adams brings a different level of quality to the attack, and I think they do work fairly well together. But I think that unless Dykes is absolutely on it, firing in every aspect of his game, then he's quite easy for a centre-half to deal with.
Yeah, I think we need to be realistic with what we've got. Dykes and Adams are our future up front just now. Nisbet's coming through and will be threatening over the next couple of years, I think, to grab one of those spots. But at the minute, Dykes and Adams is our front pairing, and we need to work with them. We need to make it work. So we've not really had as much kind of breaking runs from defence and midfield as we've had previously, and I feel Clark's been quite cautious in this tournament with that. I wish he'd maybe just taken the brakes off a wee bit, but if we had a fully fit Keane Tierney, it might be different, him bowling forward. McGinn has looked a wee bit tired, I think, in the last couple of games. You can tell he's had a long season. He's not had the same kind of top end burst of pace. He got caught up a couple of times last night after good touches. McGregor, we know how many games he's played the last few years. He's running on empty, but he was still...
McGregor was really good, though.
He was really good putting in performances. So I think getting a rest and then kind of going again, bit of experience, and it might actually stand us in good stead for the next time we get to a tourney. Let's just hope it's not too far away. And well, if it is Qatar, we'll just need to get out the sunscreen and put up with it.
That's going to be really hard.
Do you even get pints in Qatar just now?
And the really expensive hotels, apparently.
Right, gotcha. We wouldn't be having nice like last night over there, I'd imagine. But we'll move on to the other game, which I watched back. Czech Republic 0, England 1. But yeah, snooze fest. In all honesty, there wasn't much excitement to be had. Grealish was brilliant, I thought, for England, but other than that, Sterling scored the goal, still wasn't fantastic other than that. I can't see England going too far in this tournament, I'll be honest. I don't think they've got enough about them, and they might get a game or two that they'll just grind through, but I'm waiting for the spark, and they've got a guy like Sancho on the bench. He doesn't play, and I don't get it.
I've not actually seen the England game from last night, but just judging on our performance, our game against them and their first game against Croatia, they have so. It's like they're a team of individuals rather than a unit together.
Yeah.
There's so much talent there, and I think that if they'll be playing. If England won the group, didn't they? So they'll be playing second from Group F. I'm not sure they'll even get past that stage because that's the group that has Germany, France, and Portugal in it.
Yeah.
I think all three of them would beat England probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not the easiest draw in the world, is it? But then again, I think they've done the right thing that they've got to win the group, and that's the way you've got to play.
Yeah, they would need if they want to win it, they'll need to beat a team of that caliber at some point anyway. So
exactly, and you're better to get out of the way early and get some momentum if you do win it, I'd say as well. But what are your thoughts on England then, and obviously on the Czechs, Cogsy?
Well, I was still bailing about our game, so I'm just like, nah, my notifications for the Euros are now turned off. But yeah, I think the Czechs were solid against us. I mean, we created so many chances against them, but we don't have the killer instinct up front at the moment. And then Patrick Schick is a world-class striker.
Yeah.
I think the Czechs have enough to maybe even get through to the quarter-final. England, that is the worst England team I've ever seen. And
that's a bold claim.
And I'm gutted. We didn't beat them, because had we beaten them, we might have even had a better chance of getting through last night.
I mean, we'd technically still been. I actually think we'd have been out there running if we'd beat England by an odd goal, just goal difference wise. But
yeah, we might have done. I think England are so frustratingly poor to watch, and
they seem quite boring for the quality they've got on the pitch.
They're just similar to Clark. I feel like Southgate's more of a right. Let's just make sure we don't lose, rather than let's make sure we win type of manager.
They were both defenders, though, weren't they?
Yeah, but it's more than that, though. I think if I was English, I'd be really frustrated with having Southgate as manager the way he sets the side out, because you look at the attacking talent they have in that squad, it's ridiculous. Like, the fact that Sancho can't get on the pitch, you've got Grealish, it's only just getting into the team now, Sterling, Foden, there's an embarrassment. A great players, Rashford.
I think depends on your priority, though, because look at some fairly recent winners, right? Portugal were not brilliant when they won it.
No.
Right? Greece, obviously, were miles off the top of the list when they won it. But they didn't concede many goals. And England have kept a clean sheet now in 3 games. If they can take a chance and be clinical at the other end and stay pretty strong at the back, there is every chance that they could go on and have a wee run.
I mean, I will happily eat humble pie if they get to a final, right? But I can't see it. They seem too laboured for me. Whereas the thing with a Portugal is, they can turn it on. A flick of a switch, suddenly, like the counter-attack they had against Germany, even though they lost that game, it was just absolutely rapid, and Ronaldo scores a tap in from Jota. I don't see England doing that kind of move. They're very methodical. Like, I don't see the spark for a brilliant through ball or just something exciting that way.
Quite restricted.
Yeah. They are good from set pieces, is another thing to bear in mind. They'll likely get a goal or two from corners, especially if Maguire's coming back. But we'll move on. We'll let Gogsy's kind of lingering comment of the worst England team he's ever seen be the hang there. And into today's games. So we have first up Poland, Sweden, and Slovakia, Spain. Basically, the Sweden-Poland game's the easiest one to sum up, because Sweden are through already. Poland need to win, and that's it. Simple as to qualify. If we had beaten Croatia, a Poland win would have seen us play at Hampden in the round of 16. So it's definitely going to happen now. is my expectation. But I'll come to yourself first, Andy. How do you see this one going?
it's too simple to say that Lewandowski is the sort of player that can turn a game himself. He's the best striker in world football, so obviously Poland have to be considered a big threat, regardless of the fact that they've only got 1 point. Sweden, in the game that I watched them play, I was really impressed with Isak. I thought he looked like a really good young player, Alexander Isak. I think he's in La Liga at the moment. He came close to scoring against Spain, actually. There's a lot on the line for Poland here, so hopefully it's a good game and it's not just one of these boring ones that kind of passes the tournament by.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's a team that has a must-win there will make it a bit more interesting, hopefully, and it might free up some space for Isak on the counter. We'll see. I've been really impressed with him, like yourself, Andy, but what do you reckon, Gogs?
Yeah, I think it's one of these games where it could go either way. I mean, of course, Sweden might want to rest a few players ahead of the second round. I think, Poland have to go for it, and I think they've got they've got the players to do that. Of course, in Lewandowski, I reckon it might be a 1-0 to Poland.
I could see that. Yeah, kind of narrow, nervy game, but Lewandowski, when you've got a guy of that quality up front, then I'd love to have somebody like that for us. But we'll move on then to Slovakia, Spain. Spain need to win. Simple as that. They've drawn their first 2 games. Slovakia only need a draw. It's going to be one of those games where they're just going to do what Sweden did, I think, and sit deep and try to hit in the counter and get a goal if they get any chance at all with Spain committing bodies. But I criticised England for build-up play, so I need to criticise Spain as well, because they've looked laboured and not exactly the same team as they were in years past. It doesn't help they've got Morata up front, I don't think, because he misses more chances than he scores. I think it's well known by now I'm not a big Morata fan, so I'll not dwell on that. But
do you not see his goal that he scored for Juve the other about 2 weeks ago? Sorry, about 2 months or so, with that long ball on the first touch.
Yes, I did see that one. Yeah. The issue is he scores some worldies, but it's few and far between for me. I think that he's such a frustrating striker more than anything else. That's what I'll say. Like, he's so capable, but what sums him up was the penalty they had in the last game, and the rebound comes straight to him. It's one of the world's best strikers, and he doesn't set his feet and pass it into an empty net. He panics and just lets it bounce off him and go out. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it.
Spain they're a shadow of a decade ago, aren't they? They really are. And I was actually talking about this when earlier on in the tournament I was going through a phase with my mates of like watching all the goals from previous tournaments, and Spain, it would have probably been 2012 then, so Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, David Silva, Juan Mata and Xavi Alonso were the 6 centre mids that they had in the squad at that point. And if you're at that stage to pick the best 10 centre mids in the world, at least 5 of them would be Spanish, probably back then. Like that, like we talk about England's embarrassment of riches, Gogsy, I think we said, but there's levels to this really, and that Spain side will never be bettered, I think, by another Spanish side, and that this one are several levels below them.
Well, fire on, Gogsy.
No, I've noticed a lot of people reacting to me saying England, this is the worst England team I've seen. I'd like to defend my comment by saying, so they've got a lot of solo players. They can all play very well as a solo team, but individually. But making up as a team, I don't see it there. Like, I would rather have a solid unit than 11 players that think they're the best in the world, but they can't work together.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Although I don't know if that's going to stop folks disagreeing with you.
I hope Spain go through though, because and this is just probably petty from me. See, when I see countries like Slovakia, Wales go through and we don't, I hate it. I want as many of the big teams that are factually better than us to get through as possible, so that I'm not like too jealous. Yeah, it's just it's a maturity, and I can kind of half deal with Wales because I quite like them. But see like Slovakia and see if Hungary get out of that group F, no chance. I would hate it.
Do you know, I wouldn't mind Hungary because the group they're in. It's one of those that I'd think, well, there's no chance we'd get out of that. Fair play if they managed to get out. That'd be unbelievable. Biggest shock so far of the tournament if they qualify from that group. Yeah. But looking at Spain, I could see the scenario where we're at the hour mark tonight and it's 0-0, and they're just beginning to scrape and claw for a goal. I think they need to score earlier rather than later, because as games have gone on, when they've got desperate, their play's broken down a bit, and they're not the same kind of tiki-taka side that can kill you with quick passing and incisive stuff. They're just a bit kind of stuck in the mud, and they're still trying to play the same way. Enrique doesn't seem to be too bothered a lot of the time. He just kind of keeps it going without changing too much, like, because that's his way and that's his style. And
Steve Clark. Mm-hmm.
You could make comparisons, but I fancy Spain to be the big team that struggles here and potentially goes out. Like,
I've got them this week.
If they get the early goal, they'll be all right. But look out if it gets into the second half and they've no scored yet. So hopefully for your sweepy, it doesn't happen that way. Yeah. And that brings us to the final group games. So 4 games today again, which I'm delighted about. We'll start with Portugal, France, because there is an interesting kind of side point to this game. If France beat Portugal 3-0, Portugal are out. So,
regardless of what happens elsewhere.
Yeah, I believe so, because Germany would still finish above them, or Hungary would still finish above them. Right. So they would drop out of the best third places if they lose 3-0, is the way it works.
But Hungary would need to win.
Hungary would win. Germany draw would put Germany above Portugal, so it wouldn't even need to be a Hungary win. It's just nice and simple for Cristiano, who just avoid a 3-0 loss or worse. I don't see it though. I don't see them losing that heavily, but Germany did it, so you never know. Who's jumping in first? Who's going to make the bold prediction?
I'll jump in. I'll make a bold prediction. I think France will be too happy about going through anyway, so I think it'll be a draw. I think both teams will make a wee deal to say, just play out a 2-each draw or something. Make it exciting. Hugo Lloris throwing the ball into the goal on the other side or something like that. Give us a bit of entertainment. But I mean, there's a blessing in this style of how the tournament pans out, but there's also the fact that Portugal know that they have to avoid a 3-0 defeat, and no one can do anything about it. I mean, I think they're the third best ranked third place team, so it's just the way it's worked out. I think Switzerland will be sweating a bit tonight, but I just hope for a really good game. And I mean, I don't even know if I'll bother watching it. I'll just be too butthurt after last night.
France will still want to win the group, because I know we've been slagging England, but they're a better team than the third place finishers that the winner of the group will face. So if France win the group, they'll be playing either Ukraine, Finland, or Switzerland. Now, you would rather play them than England. So I think that Germany, well, Portugal as well, I suppose, but it's not in their hands. But France, they know that they've got it well within them tonight to go and seal this.
Mm-hmm.
But there's your kind of side intrigue there, because if France do go and win by 3 goals, they essentially pick their own team to play against, because suddenly it's not Switzerland, it's either Ukraine or Finland. That's the other way of looking at this game. Mm-hmm. So if they win well, they give themselves potentially an easier round of 16 tie. And I quite like that idea as well when you're looking at it, that if they're sitting 2-0 up, they're probably going to go for that third, and they're probably going to throw bodies forward. So it's a really interesting wee side plot to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting that they nearly lost against Hungary. I was surprised to see that. I was actually out on the golf course and I just checked my phone and it's like, oh my God, Hungary are 1-0 up against France. And at that point, that was peak jealousy, I think, for me, because we hadn't scored at that point, and we'd been to Wembley and drawn by that point. And I think wow, even Hungary have had a moment. They won't get out of the
Yeah.
group, but they've taken the lead against France. Like, that will live with the fans forever, because Budapest stadiums have been packed as well. Like, people
Yeah.
will talk about that for years. And I was just thinking, we must get something like that surely. And I suppose last night we had something resembling it with McGregor's equaliser.
Yeah, when the hope was still flowing freely
Yeah.
at that point. But yeah, Portugal are supposedly a lot of people's picks to win this, so it's interesting to see how this one plays out. That they could drop out in the group stage if all doesn't go to plan, and the defence looked really, really vulnerable against Germany. Germany weren't any great shakes their first game either, but I don't see Portugal going all the way with that defence.
No.
I'll be honest. Just it's all very well having the great talent up front, and we discussed it with England. They're saying, "No, kind of keeping clean sheets." Portugal aren't keeping clean sheets in this tournament, so yeah, I think that'll do for them. But the other game, obviously, there's a side plot to this one where the Alliance Arena wanting to light up in the rainbow colours, not being allowed to. So it's interesting to see how that kind of plays into things. Germany playing host to Hungary tonight, so Hungary don't have their fans shouting them on. Their sellout crowd. They can still go through with a win. Any win for Hungary puts them through. What I was reading earlier on, Germany just need a draw, but if they win, they can still win the group. So there's a lot to play for here.
Yeah, it sure is. It's an interesting game, but I think Germany should have far too much for Hungary. But we said the same about France against Hungary, and look what happened. Because I mean, there is no game that is a dead cert in this tournament, because we've already seen that. But I just think Germany will get the job done. 2-0.
Yeah, although Hungary have looked not bad though. I mean, draw against France, you have to credit. It took Portugal a jammy OG to break them down eventually, and then the floodgates opened. So yeah, Hungary are not whipping boys. I think they've had a good go at it. I think that Germany are looking pretty sharp though, especially after the last game. That was really impressive. For overall though, I think we've not mentioned it, in my opinion, the two that are most likely to go on and win it, which would be Belgium or Italy.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid picks here. They're the two that have impressed every game they've played, aren't they? So I don't think any other sides you can say they've impressed every game, because Germany, the first game looked quite leggy. They were much, much improved second time round. France, as good as they were that first game, Hungary brought them down to earth a bit. It wasn't... They just seemed a bit kind of disjointed, I felt like, against Hungary. That idea again, individuals rather than a team. Benzema missing chances left, right and centre. See, there's another Morata comparison. But yeah, we're waiting for something to really burst this tournament into kind of... Like, Italy threatened to do it. They were a wee bit more muted the third game, even though they still won it. We're waiting for somebody to really grab it by the scruff neck and go, right, this is us, come and beat us. And I think Italy's going to be the team that will do that in the knockouts.
Yeah,
Like,
actually, who did Italy? Let me just check here. Who did Italy play in the?
Italy play Austria in the round of 16.
Right. Okay. Well, they will win that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Sorry if you're watching, Sino. I know you're an Austrian man. But yeah, I think that's one of the more slam dunk games that's going to happen.
Wales Denmark's really
I'm
interesting.
intrigued by. Yeah, really intrigued by that. I think if Denmark win that, they could go on a run.
I am now even more scared, and I'm jumping a few months here, of playing them in the qualifiers in September now for the World Cup. That is, I think they have shown themselves to be quite considerably a better team than what we can offer at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think for us to take something, especially away from home, I think we'll need to turn in a similar performance that we did at Wembley, to be honest.
I think that's a fair comment. Like,
Yeah.
either Wales or Denmark are a wee bit of a dark horse pick to go quite far here, I think, depending who wins that knockout game. Wales have done it before, obviously, but Denmark carrying the emotion. Which one do you see going, Gogs?
I think it's got to be Denmark. It's for the sort of fairy tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of felt happy for them when they went on to smash Russia, because I had Denmark to win by 3 or more goals in my coupon. Because I just saw it happening. Because it was just one of. I mean, it also brings out the beauty of this format of the tournament because
Yeah.
Denmark knowing that they had to go for it and they went and did it and they finished second. It was great to see, but I was also thinking one of these times that'll be us, whichever parallel universe, getting a wee bit of luck. So I think to go far in tournament, you need a bit of luck, and we've not had that at all.
No.
I think I heard a stat that we had the most shots on target in the whole tournament.
We had the most, I think it is the most overall shots. Don't know about
Most
shots on
overall
target,
shots, that
but
might be it. And
um,
we scored one.
like there was another thing that came out last night that somebody linked me, and I know not everyone's a fan of XG, depending on its uses and so on, but every single goal we've conceded has been 0.1 around there or less in XG, which basically means that the opposition have scored some fantastic goals against us. There's not been a clear-cut chance that they've scored, and we've not had the rub of the green, which it backs up what I've seen anyway in terms of like the Czechs' couple of goals were very good goals.
Well,
Last night Croatia's goals were good goals. I still think they're preventable though.
Patrick Schick's goal from the halfway line must have been minus.
It was 0.01, I think, if I remember rightly, which obviously explains a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, when you look at it in the kind of a cold light of day, I don't think we did a lot wrong defensively. It's more up front is our issue, and we need to find ways of scoring goals. Simple as that, because we can't be a team that relies on winning 1-0. We need to get a couple of goals.
The goals we've conceded, some of them are avoidable though, right? So even though Schicks was an amazing strike, the shot and Marshall being out his net, whatever one you want to pick, are probably both culpable for it.
Yeah.
The header from Schick was perfect, but we didn't press the cross. Last night, an amazing leap from Perisic to get the flick on from the corner. We've got nobody in the back post. And then Modric is, I can forgive, but the first goal, McTominay's he's caught ball watching. Instead of recognising there's a man in space 4 yards away from me, I'm going to mark him for the knockdown. He just stands like that and watches the ball go over his head where Stephen O'Donnell is. So even though that, they were largely good finishes against us, and the Schick second one, an unbelievable finish, we do contribute to that. I don't think that they have come out of thin air.
And that's a fair enough point to make as well. That's why you can't take XG on its own. You've got to look at the pattern of the game as well. And I've been so frustrated that we haven't pressed teams this tournament. We did it against England. We pressed England heavy and it worked. And we did it against Holland in the pre-tournament friendly and it worked really well. I don't get why Steve started sitting off again, because I think it might have been a fear factor knowing that Kane Tierney's not fully fit, McTominay's not really a comfortable centre back. If we press too heavy, there's going to be gaps, but sometimes you need to do that.
Dykes and Adams should have played against the Czechs.
Yeah,
and easy with hindsight. And Clark recognised that. He said, "Look, if everyone had hindsight, including me, I'd be the best manager in the world." And it's a fair comment for him to make, because people do judge things and sometimes make the wrong decision. But I do 100% think that was a wrong decision. They had practiced together in the warm-up games, and they were looking pretty good. And I think that to go and take the game to the Czechs, and probably the most winnable game in the group, and I think that sent a message straight away to them that we are not in this to come and have a go at you.
Yeah. Point there for Charmander. If Che Adams was better, he wouldn't be playing for Scotland, is a fair point, because if he was any better, he'd have been called up for England and given a chance. So he's kind of what we've got and what we're able to get just now, up front, striker-wise. He's not going to be a goal a game kind of guy, Che, but he gives us different things. He's got a decent pass on him as well. He's good at dropping off. So I think him and Dykes we can work on as a partnership. They need support for the midfield though, is the other thing to get goals, or for the wings. So Ryan Fraser looked really good when he came on. I thought there might be something there that if he can stay fit is his big issue, but he gave us a different dimension. I was actually really impressed with him when he came off the bench.
Yeah, Fraser's a dangerous wee guy. We didn't really get to see too much of him last night. I actually can't remember when he came on. I would imagine maybe it was with about 20 or so to go.
It was 20 odd to go, yeah, when the game was basically done and dusted by then, sadly.
I think, and I'm not here to bash Stephen O'Donnell, okay, because I actually thought he was fine last night. But when we're needing a goal and needing someone to attack, I think that Forrest or Fraser, maybe Patterson, but more Forrest or Fraser on the right side, we should have come on.
It frustrated me the amount of times the ball was given out wide to Stephen O'Donnell, especially the last half hour or so, and he'd look up and then he just decided to pass back the way. It's like, no, you take it forward. No, you take it forward. And like the thing is, we were just hitting long balls into the box, hitting our hope. Just like Lyndon Dykes is in there somewhere. We'll just punt it up to him. And I mean, whereas the Croatians were very calculated in how they were going to go forward, whereas we sort of played hot potato half the time, and I think that's just again the difference in experience. But throughout the whole tournament, it's just been for me, it's been really frustrating seeing us play the way we did, because we've not changed our shape at all. Like when we were down and getting beat 2-0 by the Czechs, I mean that was when we were making our changes. It was the same last night. We should have made a change at half time, in my opinion, because we weren't winning the midfield battles, because that's where the game's won and lost. And Croatia were just strolling it, and we were lucky to last until about the hour mark to concede the second goal, because I mean, for me that's what killed the game, because the Croatians just they just had us where they wanted us, and the third goal was just coming.
No.
Yeah, I think to be fair to Stevie O'Donnell, like going forward isn't his game, and we know that. No. So I could understand why he was turning back, because he was faced up with two Croatian defenders, and he's thinking, I'm not winning that battle. We need to keep the ball here. We need to fashion a chance. I think the time might be now, though, to gradually bring in Patterson if he's going to get a game at club level. If he's not going to get a game at club level, don't bring him in yet, is what I'd say, because there's no point in him getting experience for Scotland if he's not learning week to week by playing games. So
what's your threshold, Mozza? Because like next year, say Rangers in Europe again, say they have another good season in the domestic cups, right? So that you're probably looking at near enough 50 games.
Yeah.
So what percentage of them for Patterson for him to be playing enough? How many? 20 games?
20 plus.
30?
Needs to be 20 plus for me. Obviously, it'll depend on circumstances with Tavernier, but he's not going to get dropped very often. He's the team's captain. So if I was Patterson, I'd be angling for a loan move. I don't think it's going to happen.
As far as I'm aware, they're not interested in that.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen, but I'm not willing to put him in as a starter for us if he's not getting enough game time with his club. And it might be a year away. We might see
look at Gilmore,
goal, but Gilmore is a slightly different case, I would argue, because he's playing it, even when he's playing reserve football, he's playing at a really good level, and he's getting the game time with Chelsea at a higher level. When you're surrounded by those kind of players, you're only going to improve. I don't think the Rangers reserves are really going to be the same level of development for Patterson. So I'm comfortable with Billy coming in, because I think it's a matter of time before he starts getting more game time at Chelsea as well, or getting a loan. And he is agitating for a loan from what people are saying. But yeah, I think O'Donnell stays for the World Cup qualifying campaign. And at that point, maybe a change happens. But he's not done anything to let us down. He's had one, what I'd call poor game for us. Otherwise, he's been solid as a rock.
O'Donnell, he miscontrolled the ball a few times against Czech Republic. That was it, really. He didn't. Yeah. Clark was right in his post-match assertions that O'Donnell, not once was he absolutely skinned down the left-hand side and made to look like a junior player. Like he did an attack. He messed up a couple of times. That happens. Against England, he made up for it with an absolutely top-class performance. And last night, he was just fine. Yeah, he wasn't outrageously good, but he wasn't crap either. So I think that when we recognise that we're chasing a game, that that's not his USP to rampage up and down the right hand side, hit the byline, and create opportunities. That's not his type of right back or right wing back style. And we've got options on the bench. And I go back to it the same. I made the same point earlier with Flick. Surely that's why we've got these guys there to make these changes if we need to. And I do worry that Clark leaves it slightly too long. Flick last night, I felt it was crying out for someone. And look, and I know that we are here having a go and discussing what Steve Clark should be doing, and none of us are football managers, right? But I think that it was clear for me to see that we needed two in midfield who were happy just to sit, keep possession, pass the ball around, and then give it to McGinn, who could play a wee bit further forward, right? And it was the same on the right-hand side. It was surely clear to see we do not have much threat coming from here in their half. O'Donnell is not, as I've just said, the type of right-back who's going to manage to get past his man and hit the byline in the majority of occasions. And we've got Forrest and then Patterson maybe on the bench who exactly thrive in that situation.
Yeah.
So if they're there in the squad for when these things arise and they're not used, what's the point?
I mean, I lobbied yesterday for Forrest to start over O'Donnell just purely for the type of game it was going to be. We needed to have threat on both flanks because Croatia are obviously a fantastic team when they're on song. But a lot of this has benefit of hindsight stuff, isn't it? That we could have been sitting here after a jammy 1-goal win and been praising Clark to the hilt, saying, oh, he got it spot on, if things had fallen differently. It's one of those. But I think long term, do you know, somebody mentioned it in the chat and I was going to say it at the time, the Dawn said that this team is crying out for a prime Alan Hutton at right back. Imagine Hutton and Robbo as the wing backs in this system would be outstanding on the counter attack. At least we've got Patterson who will come through over the next few years. I'm pretty sure he's going to come through and be a mainstay. Somebody said that apparently Gilmore might be going on loan to Norwich, is what the rumours are just now, which I think would be good for us as well.
There are rumours. I would not be convinced, guys, that Gilmore's going to go on loan.
Chelsea always want to get paid, don't they, for loans?
Clubs want him, but I am not sure that that's what is actually going to happen.
I'd take him at Motherwell.
Very true.
we don't even have a squad at the moment, so that would be flipping great.
Near the BSC, mate. I know the feeling. We're playing 7 aside, just sling stand. But long term, I think the prospects are positive for us. When you look at the quality we've got coming through, so you've got guys to build around. Nobody in that squad, with the exception of Declan Gallagher, is 30. They're all in their 20s or teenagers. So, assuming that we can get to either the next World Cup or the next Euros, it's roughly the same kind of squad that's going to be there, with 1 or 2 hopeful breakout talents coming through as well, and that'll stand us in really good stead the next time we're in this position, I would say. Yeah,
definitely. I think there are a few players as well that could be playing at a higher level by the time that comes around. I would expect Nisbet to be challenged more because I think he's not exactly completed the Scottish Premiership, but he's shown that he's more than good enough. I think he should go and try his luck elsewhere. Christie will be leaving Celtic soon, so maybe who knows what's going to happen with Patterson. So I think there are players as well that will be improving, not just at the club they're at, but at different clubs and furthering their career before the next time a major tournament comes around for us.
What Jocks just said there is something I asked on Twitter last night and got a lot of debate about. The main worry I have is the next goalkeeper. Who's the next number one? Because Gordon's basically finished at this point. He's got a year or 2 left. Marshall's not getting any younger. I don't see McLaughlin being our starting keeper long term. When he's not getting a game at Rangers, he's sitting on the bench.
Don't know, but
Liam Kelly was the name that kept coming through, but I'll let Gogsy jump in, then we can...
Yeah.
I mean, I've been scratching my head for a while. I mean, how many players have we had in as third goalkeeper that never gets a sniff? We've had the likes of Xander Clark over the years, Liam Kelly, of course, had a fantastic 6-month loan at Motherwell. I mean, if it wasn't for him, Motherwell would got relegated. And we've also
Has Kelly signed for United?
I've heard reports that it's either Dundee United or Motherwell that are basically spearheading the attack and trying to get him to sign. But like he said, he was wanting to move back to Motherwell because Motherwell's closer to where he stays in Erskine, I think, than Dundee. So, but I mean, it's purely down to money at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure Dundee United will be offering a pretty penny because I mean, Seagrass I think's going away. So I really don't know. I hope we get him on a permanent because there's rumour that Trevor Carson might be retiring. So I hope we manage to get something sorted. But back on the Scotland goalkeeper thing, I think Liam Kelly might be too short for the international game. Is my worry because of his height.
I heard that's why QPR are happy to loan him out because the strikers in the Championship are very tall and powerful guys, and Kelly he's not a midget. I mean, he's like 6'2" or something, but but a lot of the Championship attackers and strikers are massive and just simply can out jump him.
It's Liam Kelly's stance as well. Like he's like he doesn't look 6'2". That's the problem. But I'll happily have him back at Motherwell.
I wonder if Robbie McCrory might be an option for us. It's been a strange one for him because he looked really good at Livy, and then he was Matt Strychek came in and basically relegated McCrory to the bench. And I think he'll go back to Rangers this season, or is he signed for Livy? No, he's on loan. He's on loan, isn't he?
He's on loan.
Rangers.
He's on loan.
So I wonder if he can get another season under his belt. I don't know if Rangers are looking at him as a successor to McGregor. I've no idea. But I can't imagine.
I don't think so. I had a couple of Livy fans respond to me last night saying that he's been miles off it the last season, which is why Strychek's been playing. Yeah. So, one said Kelly was a superior keeper, which says a lot when they've seen McCrory all that time. But the other option's Angus Gunn, who hasn't declared for us still. He's still keeping his options open and hoping to get in to the English squad, but I can't see that happening. The way things are. So again, Angus Gunn, I wouldn't call him fantastic, but he's solid. He's a pretty decent keeper. I think he'd probably grab the number 1 jersey without Marshall and Gordon being there pretty comfortably. So do you think that's the route we go down?
With a name like Angus, surely he's got to be called up to the Scotland squad.
We just need his dad to lean on him and persuade him. You know,
it'd be sacrilege if he went to the English.
I'm just seeing he's signing for Norwich, Angus Gunn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I think his dad's it's Norwich you would associate him with. Is that right?
Yeah, I think his dad's still involved at Norwich.
Yeah. So the thing is, right, that I think it might be quite hard because even though his dad's Scottish, and it's different because Scott McTominay grew up in England but with a blue heart, the same as Stuart McCall back in the day, born and raised in England but he felt Scottish. Whereas Angus Gunn, yes, he's got a Scottish dad, but I think he has felt English growing up, so he doesn't have that emotional pull. I think it would have to be a decision for his career rather than sentimentality or emotional connection rather than anything else.
Well, Charmander, that's kind of what we're doing just now. Checking the young English keepers for Scottish eligibility. I think other than keeper, the other one is up front, although I'm feeling that Nisbet, as you said earlier, Andy will kick on hopefully and maybe get a wee move to the Championship down south, or maybe even at the top level. We'll see. Shanklin's a bit of a disappointment. I feel like he's not kicked on as much as I thought he would. Might not have been helped with the way Mickey Mellon set up United last year, though, that he didn't get the same chances, the same freedom as he did before. We'll see if that changes now. He's acquitted himself okay when he's played for Scotland and Spain spells, but I think Nisbet's a better prospect for us up front. But yeah, I know we're kind of dwelling on things that might or might not happen here. Overall, I think the outlook is positive. Even if we're not going to get to Qatar, I don't actually think most fans would really mind if we miss out in Qatar as well, is the other thing.
I'd rather save up for the session in Germany in 2024.
But it's just going to be such a weird World Cup, that one. Well, I personally wouldn't mind if we didn't make that one, as long as we showed progress in the way we're playing.
Where's the 26th World Cup? Is that the one that's in Mexico?
It's in Mexico, Canada, and the US.
Aye, let's reach that one.
We'll go for that one.
And that's the World Cup that's being extended to 48 teams.
It doesn't make things that much easier for us though, because it's only 3 more teams from Europe, isn't it?
That's
so
right.
Adding, yeah. I think it's the more Asian and African teams and stuff, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only difference it makes is there's more playoff qualifiers from Europe.
Right.
I don't think there's any more automatic qualifiers. So it kind of helps us that way, I suppose, that there's more of a chance of getting a playoff. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, other than that, I guess kind of to round things off, what's our overall feeling now leaving this tournament the way it is? I can't help but feel a tinge of disappointment that I feel like we haven't represented ourselves as well as we could have done. I think there's more quality in our squad than what we've shown there, and despite the fact that, like we mentioned, that some goals we've conceded have been unlucky to concede, I'm more focusing on what we've done. And I think that, not that we've let ourselves down, but I think that we could have shown a wee bit more. At least we're not Turkey. That's what I would say.
I think that there's certainly evidence that this squad has got quite a bit about us, but
yeah.
Sadly, I think that we leave the Euros with more questions than answers, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is of frustration to me.
I mean, the good thing is they need to be answered at some point, I suppose, so it hasn't papered over any cracks. We'll see how Stevie kind of approaches it, but what are your thoughts, Gogsy, given it? It's the first tournament you've seen us in?
Yeah, it's the first tournament I've actually cared about. But the thing is, I'm encouraged by the sort of nucleus of the youth coming through, because like we've got a lot to build on. But another thing that's concerning is just a lot of the goals we conceded were self-inflicted. Yeah, and that's unfortunately what you've got to look at. You've got to look at the negatives, because you can't finish bottom of the group and say, "Oh, we did well though." Even though we had spells in every game in which we were on top, and we just never had the rub of the green in front of goal, which is a massive shame. I mean, if you look at, for example, the chance that Adams had on the rebound against England, I think if that had fallen to Lyndon Dykes, who's a bit taller, might have actually controlled the header. But I mean, like even in the game against the Czech Republic, the defender flicked the ball over the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper still fucking saved it.
That was a game, wasn't it? It was a Czech Republic game that did for us. If we win that game, it's a totally different story. So
it left us with far too much to do, and you can't rely on the result against the World Cup runners-up from 3 years, however many years ago now.
It worried me, Gogsy, that there seemed to be a consensus or a foregone conclusion in the run-up to last night's game that we would just beat them. Like, Croatia are on the decline, they're not the team they were, blah, blah, blah. And then they announced their starting 11 and you're like, shit, they are actually still good. It's just Rakitic. They don't have Rakitic anymore, and Mandzukic wasn't playing. But if you look through their team and the clubs that they play for, they're still absolutely class. And it really worried me that in the build-up to the game, I think people expected us to win, which I don't think you can do against, as you say, the team that nearly won the World Cup just 3 years ago.
I think a lot of people underestimate the level of quality that they have even in their own domestic league. I mean, Dynamo Zagreb, I would say, well, they certainly did a lot better than Celtic in Europe. I mean, they put out Tottenham Hotspur. So, I mean, you gotta. It's just
short-sightedness, because we don't know anything about them, so we just assume
that's been our downfall for years. I mean, even when our clubs go out to play, say in Croatia or Serbia in Europe, and you have no idea what you're up against unless you actually do the arithmetic and be like, oh well, actually they've got this, this, and that. And I mean, I'm one of the few people that's actually like complete stat mad, and I actually like, do all this flipping research whenever Motherwell play in Europe. It doesn't happen very often anymore. But I was like, here, Hapoel Beersheba is actually a decent team.
But yeah, I think it's all fair points, isn't it? That
Yeah.
to be honest, I think some people are just getting carried away thinking all we need to do is win. Oh, it's going to happen, and you do forget sometimes the quality of the opposition. I'd still maintain I would have taken that scenario though, that all you need to do is win one game to get through, even if it is Croatia. I think before the tournament anyone bites your hand off for that, because at least going into the final game you've got a winning in scenario, which just have a bash, why not? You know, it gives you a decent chance. But we move on, we live and learn, and that is the end of our hour. So guys, thank you very much for giving us your time this morning, really appreciate it.
No problem.
We are now going to have a couple of days off, folks, because there's no games for the next couple of days, and I'm going to have some lie-ins. So I think I've earned them at this point. I will be back on, let me just double check, Saturday morning is when we'll be back to go through the round of 16, starting with that Wales-Denmark game and Italy-Austria that day as well. So 2 good games that day. But obviously, to catch up with this, I'll put the link out on Twitter as well. Andy's got his Twitter linked in his name. You can see there at the Hampden Roar that you should go and listen to. It's a cracking podcast. Gogsy, just search Gogsy on YouTube. There's no other Gogsy out there. Find the man easy enough.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to relive the pain with me, I'm editing my vlog in about 10 minutes' time.
Poor lad. He's a glutton for punishment this morning.
Oh,
But aye, again, thanks very much, guys, and to everyone watching, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple of days. Adios.